Join me in thanking the speakers for a lot of great content today, and we'll begin by starting to introduce our panelists, and maybe I'll start at the end, and Ray, you could just grab a mic and just introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your certainly involvement certainly in the Target project.
Yeah, no, thanks, Craig. Appreciate it. Nice to see everyone. Ray Labby. I am from PTC and focus on the Kepware products. I'm a principal solution consultant and really work with a lot of our customer base and understanding different architectures on how to get industrial data from different assets in a variety of different verticals, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's energy production, oil and gas, et cetera. Really try to bring that customer focus and information back to our product teams as well. I've been with the company now for over 11 years and appreciate Will for being able to talk a little bit about how they're leverage our technology to help build that foundation and standardize on the data collection layer to help roll that information up into the use cases and needs for business and operations. Thanks.
Hello to Dan.
Hi guys, I'm Dan White, also 11 years at my company, Opto22. Of course, Opto22, we're a manufacturer of PLCs, I/O, remote control products. And my role is as director of technical marketing, is to really showcase the technical features of the products and teach our potential customers and existing customers how to best use our products, all the different things we can do. So you might see some of my articles, case studies on various customer applications and how our products go to work.
Okay, great. Jimmy.
So.
Can you hear me? Yeah, Jimmy Felice. I'm with G Vernova. My role there is product and market development, and I've been in the industry maybe as long as Craig. But
I've said more gray here.
Yeah, I think we've known each other well. But yeah, I mean, kind of grew up with the industrial control business, and kind of as things evolved over the last 25 years, really seen the market transform. So right now, really my focus is, how do we deliver the right solutions for our customers? Whether it's like Craig at Orange County, that leverages our software, to looking at how analytics can play in the various markets that we supply to.
Okay.
Looking forward to the discussion.
Great. John.
Hi, John Edison with Honeywell. I'm the Chief Product and Strategy Officer for our digital and software business. Responsible for sort of sector spanning, all of automation, and that is on the building side as well as industrial automation. Come from a largely technology background. Was at Oracle, was at HP. Stayed close to data and exploiting data to solve problems in a variety of industries, and now at Honeywell. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. If anybody in the audience has any questions for our panelists, just raise your hand, and my colleague Alex will come take your question. And if not, until we get some questions, we'll start things rolling. And I think one question I have, and I think I can start with you, John. And then what I'd like to do is, after John responds, anybody else in the panel that wants to jump in. But how can organizations build their resiliency and confidence in assessing cyber risk at an enterprise level? How do they distribute controls and capabilities, say, between the site and enterprise levels? So if you want to.
That's a question that's been coming to us a lot more often now than before, and I think most organizations at the site level have fairly established processes, tools, technologies. Yes, there's always a lot more that we all can do. But then, where is that, balance, and what happens at the site, what happens at the and at the enterprise level? Now, site, obviously, right, all the basics, right, your network segmentation, all patching that you do, all of those, right, the foundational aspects there. But then, at the enterprise, it generally shifts to controls, right? What kind of controls? What is your overall risk-based approach to cybersecurity, right? And so controls, again, cross-site assessments, capabilities like AI at scale is available generally at the corporate level. So how do we sort of take that capability and ability and start leveraging it to solve some of these problems at scale, right? Again, unified risk-based approach. Generally, the frame and the legal controls that are needed, the capabilities all start at the enterprise, and then from there, now how do you leverage those capabilities? How does that trickle down at the site level? And then visibility, right? The other, to balance these two, the big factor is how does the events that happen at the site level quickly roll up to the enterprise where you can take the right remediation actions at scale, et cetera, right? So that's the kind of balance that we see overall.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment?
I could chime in a little bit on cybersecurity, just from what I've seen on my let's say decade plus in industrial automation. Something that's come out in the last 5 or maybe 5 to 8 years is the methodology of using more pub/sub methodologies in our communications. So I think we've all been used to for years and years, what's the register, what's the address that I have to pull, how do I reach in and get data and bring it back to some central operations center, or wherever that data needs to go. And what we've seen a lot of, and we've really incorporated that into our products as well, is this notion of securely pumping data out from the edge, not relying on a model that requires your holes in your network, not leaving ports open, where you do need to reach in and get data, using things like VPNs to be able to make a secure connection to that site before you start polling around on there. But then really the big thing is the kind of advent in trying to embrace these pub/sub technologies like the MQTT Spark plug we talk about a lot, where you can securely push data out, and that's a device originated connection right from the edge. You could theoretically go from a device running a machine directly up to the cloud without having any inbound ports except for a single point of contact for all those devices up at your broker level. So I think pub/sub is something that it's hard when we've got 40, 50 plus years of legacy hardware out there, but there's devices today that are cheap and easy that you can bolt on, that you can start to get more of that data, right? Because to take advantage of AI, we got to have data. But to get the data, and we got all these legacy machines running, there's so much value out there. So going for small, cheap devices that you can bolt on, get the data, pump it up securely, could certainly be something worth looking at.
Okay, great. Anybody else want to jump in? Not, I have a question that maybe I'll start at the end with Ray, and we'll work our way down. Is AI friend or foe? Okay, how should organizations start thinking about leveraging the AI, whether it can be in any of their strategies, including cyber, for example, and how should that strengthen their resiliency?
Oh, it's a great question. The contrarian me sometimes says foe in certain cases, but I to me it still ties back to the focus and the use case, and also just the cleanliness of the information that you're going to be leveraging this new technology on. I think some of my contrarianness personally comes back to the garbage in, garbage out type cliche conversation we have, where if you're learning based on data that isn't reliable or could influence those decisions in a negative way and result because of that unreliability, to me, that's more detriment than colleague or friend, I guess, in this analogy. And so coming back to having the core strategy of getting that data securely using open standards, open protocols, but secure methodologies to get that information is key and critical to then build that foundation that AI technology can leverage that information with.
Great. Anybody else want to jump in on friend or foe?
Somebody else
I'll talk a bit about it. I think it's going to evolve into a friend. I think some of the things that we haven't talked about, obviously we've talked a lot about getting OT data and using it for, a variety of analytics, maybe process optimization. I think it's a friend if it's treated as an advisor and not the decision maker. At least short term, maybe it'll evolve into that decision maker. I know Craig mentioned, control, no, maybe sometime in the future it could be, but I think the key is, the data is obviously important, the quality is important, so if we at least take it at a surface level, whether it's, here's some optimization or, like things like the PID tuning and things like that as guidance, somebody that's a subject matter expert, at least for me, shorter term, would be important. Somebody that really knows what's going on and can assess whether that decision coming out of the AI is actually practical. Then it can be a friend.
Okay.
And I think the other thing I'd say is we also always look at things like OT data, and I think there's also an opportunity. I think you touched on it, Craig, with the the skill set of the workforce and the aging workforce. I think we've heard some of that this week already. Starting to actually capture more than just that data, but maybe what the operators are doing and those subject matter experts are doing, and using that to actually learn and provide guidance for the future employees. I think that's part of that resiliency we're looking for as well is, how do I keep things going when that subject matter expert's gone all of a sudden?
Right. I mean, I know, Craig, you had that example, in your presentation.
Yeah, so if it influences good decisions, then it's definitely a friend. But we want to be careful as we use this tool. It's a new technology tool, that it also doesn't handicap us, because if we give the AI all the institutional knowledge, then are we going to then lose that knowledge, if we never have to, open the hood and turn a few bolts ourselves? So that's just one of the concerns. Maybe I've read too many science fiction novels, but I'm also excited about what AI can do in terms of assisting the individual and educating. So you can ask the AI, LLMs, all kinds of interesting questions, and you can gain quite a bit of insight doing that.
I'll just start by saying I think Will, you laid the foundation. You said get your OT data right before you can start really exploiting what AI can unlock, right? We are seeing significant leverage in maintenance assist kind of activities, right? Where that institutional knowledge is increasingly getting instantiated into the data layer, and then AI becoming a co-pilot, if I may, right? To especially the the workforce transition that is happening as newer employees come in. From a cyber perspective, if you look at it, right, everything from basic monitoring to assessment to remediation, and even in compliance, we're beginning to see that leverage across the board, right? Whether it's as basic as anomaly detection, or now getting into more predictive assessments that can be done, right? Risk models, can we start driving the efficacy of those risk models? Again, data and the data quality foundational and fundamental. And then, from a remediation perspective, can there be a guided path, a guided playbook, right? That you can leverage AI to continuously learn and improve. And those are some examples that or things that we are beginning to work through as the technology gets leveraged a little bit more.
Hey, Chuck.
Yeah, so I'd say friend and foe. It depends on which side of the fence you sit on, right? So, from an OT cyber perspective, right? I think the vast majority of us at this conference and in the room are facing just the standard basic functions of securing our OT networks. Then welcome in AI, right? And the challenges faced by our organizations and our leadership to basically challenge us to make better, faster decisions, right? So providing good quality data up to the business level. Obviously, the vast majority of this compute power doesn't exist within our OT environments. Likely not even at our edge, right? To pass this data all the way up to cloud-hosted solutions to make informed, timely decisions, right? And then what is the mechanism to feed that back into your operating, business to make those decisions to inform the people? So it's a challenge, right? We're trying to get the basics done right while also being thrown the curveball of AI and fitting it into our models.
Yeah, that's for sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, after you asked that question, I feel like we should have had a sound effect. Dun, dun, dun. Because honestly, it's quite funny. Right now, we're in the AI position that it's a robot. Okay? We're going back to understanding basic process control and mechanical engineering handbooks and taking and saying, well, instead of manually doing this, we're going to go ahead and run it in a model. Great. Love it. We're not even doing that now, and we're labeling it as AI. I love to call it at Target the $1 million man. We can build it. It's stronger, faster, all of that, but it doesn't have its own brain. What I do think, as we continue to mature, we're going to start seeing where those models really begin to intercept each other, and then they start understanding, oh, this is tied to this. Now I can continue to understand where should I go when I hit this tree of information decision points. I think, honestly, it's a friend if we use it wisely. So I love starting out with running it through a model, giving that operator an opportunity to understand, hey, I'm running the amine treater at such and such, but based upon my emulsive bed and these things, I really should set it here because my H2S parts per million are here. I'm going to flood it. So those are things that'll help operation, right? Operational resilience, all those pieces. Then you get to that point where you've run it long enough, just let it do it. The operator doesn't need to change it 500 times a minute. Let it do it. And if you need to throw it into bypass, build the logic to do that, right? So.
Anybody else that hasn't jumped in on the friend to foe comments? Dawn or?
I'm not sure I have a lot on that for what we do. I just say that I kind of look at the difference between smart control and AI. Mm-hmm. And I think that where we are in our industry, it's more smart control. It's taking it, getting calculations and getting smarter and smarter, but the system isn't learning. It's being told. It's still being told. And we have some clients who are saying there's no AI in that box, right? That actually can be a problem in having acceptance with clients.
Anybody else? If we have any, by the way, if anyone from the audience has any questions, Alex, if good. Peter has a question.
Everybody, Peter Manos with ARC. Great to see all of you. I was just thinking about how the ROI for the upgrades to control systems that we've been talking about here. In some cases, the ROI for a water utility might be better than the ROI for an oil refinery, but the available capital on the public side, the water utility side or the public works side isn't there. What are you currently seeing, and what would you like to see as solution providers and users in terms of business models to help the public sector and water utilities achieve that operational resilience? And You know, the $500,000 savings
Mhm.
that Aqualogics in that case of a facility owner purifying groundwater, how much more clean water could the water utility have provided with a $500,000 a year annuity, you know, to that customer? I know the business model's not there. I'm not talking about building a new water line, but basically an industrial and commercial asset owner operator in a water utilities service territory has need for water, for which the financial value of improving the operations at that water facility, how could that, from a business model point of view, be facilitated? If that makes sense.
Anybody?
For me, we do a lot of work with the ESPC model, where large corporations are developing energy and water savings opportunities in a facility, and then they're funding it, they're engineering it, they're building it, they're even operating it for up to 20 years. And so that the ESPC model has been a really something we've done a lot of. And for us, our typical payback is 3 years or less in that $500,000. That when you're taking groundwater and you're actually getting quote unquote free water, what I didn't put is there's a slide is the cost to buy 1,000 gallons of water in Washington, D.C. and put it down the drain is $23. So when you're saving millions of gallons of water, you know, it really adds up. In Atlanta, I think it was 30. Okay. So it really, the GSA average, I think, is somewhere around $19 per 1,000 gallons. So there is a lot of payback there, but I agree. The capital, usually the capital is coming from the like an ESPC or some sort of performance contracting. That's the most popular. We've looked at also the idea of doing savings as a service, where we provide the capital and bring that in, and then just the client doesn't own the equipment. They don't have anything to do with it. We literally are saying, we're going to reach in and just save the money you're putting down the drain. You're already spending the money. You're throwing it away. So let us come in and reclaim that water for you and fund everything we're doing out of what you're wasting.
Anybody else? We have any other audience questions? Please raise your hand, and if not, I'll start. I'm going to have a question for the entire panel. Okay, is that, you know, based on your experience in either from your own facilities or certainly helping your customers deploy these solutions, if you had to just say like one or two lessons learned that you would just advise for future projects, or certainly if someone was asking for advice, do you say what are the pitfalls? What do you want to watch out for, and learn from my mistakes or things that we've learned the hard way? What would what would your advice be? And we'll start with Ray, and we'll go right across.
So from my position working with customers as a software provider, what I often see as sort of a lessons learned or downfall is making sure you collaborate appropriately with the teams inside of your organization. Occasionally I joke about scenarios where I become almost the therapist between customers, different groups within the customers that I work with. And it's not to say that, you know, we don't have problems within my own organization, but the key is really getting that collaborative buy-in is critical if you want to move forward in reaching those goals, to provide those efficiencies, to provide the solutioning and the architectures to get into like a more of an operational resilient type model if you're not already there. So collaborating with your colleagues and really breaking down those barriers is key and critical, and what I see as useful feedback for customers that aren't succeeding, but also one of the main keys that I see with customers that I work with that are succeeding in those areas.
Okay, well, yeah, good.
So from my perspective, I'll give the, I guess, unique perspective of somebody who works for a company that designs and makes control systems. I would say avoid getting locked in, avoid being seduced by a company or a specific product and getting sort of brought down into that rabbit hole and then becoming locked in. So when you're designing control systems, when you're designing solutions, especially for new companies that are starting to scale and companies that are getting bigger, companies that have big, large enterprises, design around technologies, not around particular hardware or even software platforms. So what I mean by that is, love Kepware, but design around OPC, or design around SQL, or design around MQTT, or design around technologies. But don't just say, okay, well, we only use this and we're only ever going to use this, because that's a way to get yourself boxed in and lose your agility and eventually just get gobbled up by the next guy.
Okay. On.
I think someone in a presentation said, know your baseline.
Mhm.
I think that's really important. I think that with what we do, and we're doing all this advanced optimization, and then you find out that the client actually has fundamental problems that you didn't know. So you need to know your baseline first and really identify and make sure that everything is operating as expected before you then try to apply optimization strategies.
Great.
Yeah, I'll just say, hope for the best, but plan for the worst. So in utilities, uptime is given a high priority. So make sure your backup systems, your redundancies are in place to begin with to accommodate any type of outages that you might have. And then also don't over-engineer your solution. I'm a technology advocate where I work, but you need to know when it's appropriate to use that technology solution and when maybe a simpler solution could get the job done and be a lot easier to maintain.
Okay.
I'll say the challenge isn't easy. Find a partner who's willing to go down that journey with you. You're going to hit roadblocks. You're going to hit challenges. I think we've been very fortunate in some of the partnerships that we formed with Honeywell and others, and being able to leverage their partnerships with other vendors and product providers to be able to establish solutions that have worked for our environment. So you're going to hit roadblocks. Don't be afraid to pivot, change direction, seek out different answers to those problems. But it's a journey. It's a challenge. But try to find somebody who's willing to go through it with you.
Yeah, I'm going to double down a little bit on the first comment there around the partnerships. And I've seen this firsthand. I think anybody who's been in the industry has seen the IT-OT kind of wrestling matches that go on. So I think that IT-OT relationship is really key to making some of these things happen, especially as you start moving that OT data to the IT network. How do you do that in a reliable manner, I guess. So that's one thing. And then as that data becomes available, probably look for a problem to solve. Don't just say, I'm going to just push all this data into the cloud or into my historian on site or whatever, and then just sit there and wait for magic. It isn't going to happen unless you've got a problem to solve. Mm-hmm. So probably better sometimes to start a little smaller with a focused effort, knowing that you've got a challenge, whether you're trying to optimize something or monitor a piece of equipment, whatever it is, start with that rather than just grabbing a bunch of big, I think in the session earlier today, he called it a data swamp instead of a data lake. And I thought, yeah, that's probably the right term. So yeah, I think that'd be at least some of the key things to look out for.
Okay. Will, and finish off with John.
Yeah. My goodness, you can echo almost every single piece of this, right? I think really it's the tragedy is allowing perfection to kill good. And I think that's that whole lofty goals versus reality. And sometimes you're not going to boil that ocean in one pot. And so I think that as we strategically look at, I love the Legos. I use it all the time. Or, highly sophisticated architecturally crafted brick system, right? Yeah. So you can use it however you want. It's wonderful. That's the point. You know, really to be strategic. And for many of us, and I know some of you have these challenges, right? We have assets that are a little old. That's okay. And we have technologies that help us, right? So we can standardize on that. As we continue to move forward and build new technology, the solutions we have, we can advance ourselves. Don't just say this is what we're going to do. Be able to adapt, but still fit your mold of the goal, making sure that everybody's stacked hands. Like I said, next week, I've got the same problem. We want to use something new. Okay, let's sit down, talk about it. Why are we using it? What's our goal? Why aren't we using what we already have? So don't let it stop you. Always take the opportunity.
I think it's important to start with what problem is being solved. And once that is understood, then it's easier to bring the different parties involved, right? IT, OT, whoever else needs to be part of that equation, right? And oftentimes these problems cannot be solved by one party or the other. It requires a bit of a coalition to go attack some of these problems at scale, right? The other thing is, it doesn't have to be big bang all the time, right? Incremental experimentation, especially when it comes to things like AI adoption, right? Experiment, fine tune it, continue to improve it, right? And then you'll start seeing adoption increase. You'll start see the value unlocks happen. So.
Great. I want to join me in thanking the panel very much, and thank you so much for attending the session. And hopefully we'll see you at City Walk tonight. Thank you so much.